Welcome again to Sunday School Unscripted. Time for us to come together and learn something more about God in the songs that we sing, in the crafts that we do, and as you read and study the Bible together. And it's good that we have the Bible in our own languages, because many areas around the world do not have any portions of the Bible to read in their own language. We've got many different versions. That's the NIV. I've got the Message Bible there. I've got a Youth Bible there. And also, when we were at school, we used to get given a Gideon's Bible as well. Many, many different versions. And today we're going to continue in our journey through Matthew's Gospel, at one of the most famous stories in the life of Jesus. And we might ask the question, how did he do that? So let us continue that journey through this Gospel we've been looking at. Jake will be leading us in our talk, and Jenny will follow that with a craft. So hopefully you enjoy it and sit back and listen and enjoy.
Hey guys, it's great to have you back with us again. Today we are going to continue looking into the book of Matthew. And to make sure that you're listening, I'm going to be asking you a few questions along the way. So, when you see me hold up this picture, I want you to listen to the question and then pause the video. And then I want you to either tell someone else in the room your answer or just think of the answer in your head. Can you guys do that for me? Perfect. In the book of Matthew and in the rest of the Gospels, we see Jesus perform lots of miracles. But out of all the miracles Jesus does, there is only one miracle that gets a mention in all 4 books. So, here is your first question. Can you guess what that miracle is? Was it Jesus walking on the water? Was it one of the many healings that he did? Was it him turning water into wine? Let's have a listen and find out.
Hello everyone. Today's reading is taken from the 14th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed those who were ill. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he told the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children.
How did you guys do? Did anyone manage to guess the right answer? If you had a little look at this picture before, that might have given you a little bit of help. Today's miracle we're going to look at is the feeding of the 5,000. So, the story carries on from 2 weeks ago, if you can remember, where John the Baptist was killed by Herod. So, for those of you with a good Bible knowledge, you may remember that John the Baptist actually knew Jesus. In fact, they were related, and John even baptized Jesus at the start of Matthew. So once Jesus heard the news about John's death, he decided to get in a boat and head out to get some time on his own. But because of Jesus' teaching, he was starting to gain a big following from crowds. And once the people heard where Jesus was, they went out of the towns to follow him. Now Jesus had recently heard about John's death, and as soon as he was back to shore, there was a huge crowd waiting for him. Now, if I had recently had a hard time and I had a big crowd waiting for me when I got back to the shore, I would have been like, just give me some space. But here's the question for you. Can you remember what Jesus' response was to them? Now that was a hard one, but the answer is that he had compassion for them. He showed love and care towards them, even after just hearing the news about John the Baptist. What a response, and a great reminder that even if we're struggling in our lives today, that we can pray and talk to Jesus about it, because he is compassionate, loving and caring. Now all of this was taking place in the middle of nowhere. And we are told that there were 5,000 men with Jesus, and that doesn't even include the women and children who were also there too. But before long, it was evening time, and the disciples mentioned to Jesus that they should start sending people to the village to buy themselves some food. But here's your next question. Can you remember what Jesus' response was to the disciples? Jesus said back to the disciples that they don't need to go away and that you should give them something to eat. So, time for another question. Can you think back to a time where you were eating with lots of other people? What is the biggest gathering of people you've eaten with? Maybe your answer was in a restaurant or at a school canteen. Maybe it was when you had a meal with your friends and family at Christmas. But can you imagine how much food there would have to be to feed 5,000 men and women and children on top of that as well? The disciples must have thought, how on earth do you expect us to do that? There was no local supermarkets they could quickly run off to, no takeaway shops they could ring for a quick delivery of a pizza. All they had was 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But Jesus had a plan. Jesus took the loaves and the fish and got the crowd to sit down on the floor. He looked up to the heavens and gave thanks and broke the loaves of bread. Time for another quick question. How many people do you think that you could feed with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? Wow. Jesus handed the food back to the disciples and they started handing it out to the crowd. And as they were doing so, they managed to feed 10 people and there was some left. So they fed 100 people and there was still some left. So they fed 1,000 people and there was still some left. Jesus and the disciples managed to feed everyone in the crowd. And I don't just mean that they had a little taste. I mean, they fed them until they were full. And there was even 12 basketfuls left at the end. But why did Jesus perform this miracle? Whenever Jesus does a miracle, it has a purpose. It's never to show off or to try and impress people, but to act as a sign of things to come. Let's have a look at another passage. We're going to have a quick look at John 6, verse 35. And that says, "Then Jesus declared, 'I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty.'" So Jesus isn't just providing the bread for us to eat, but Jesus points us towards the fact that he is the bread we need. Like the crowd in the story, we need food to survive, and when we give what we have to him, like the disciples given over the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he will be enough. In fact, the story shows that he's more than enough. Remember, there was 12 baskets left over. Also, like in the story we've looked at today, Jesus invites us to be part of it. If Jesus wanted, he could have provided the food without any help from the disciples. I mean, after all, he is the God who created the universe around us. We are to give what we have to him, trust that he will provide for us, and because he loves and cares for us, he will provide for our spiritual needs. Let us pray to finish. Jesus, thank you for your caring and loving character, that we can come to you in joy, but also when we are struggling. Thank you that you have come to be the bread of life, that you are all we need in life, and I pray that in these coming days, months and years, that we would learn what it truly means to live our lives for you. Amen.
Welcome to this week's craft. Well, it's kind of a craft and kind of a game. Here's what you need. You need some sort of cardboard box, some sort of paper, a cup to draw around, pencil and scissors. And we're going to be making a fish and some loaves, and then we're going to be playing a game. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's start by drawing the fish. So here's a little tip for you. I want you to draw around a cup and make a circle, and then put the cup again and draw around next to it. So you've got 2 circles. Then put a dot roughly in the middle of the 2 circles, and then one at the top and one at the bottom. Now you're going to join this dot to the top of the circles and right across, and the same on the other side. Join to the top of the circles and right across. Okay, so we've got this fish shape, and now we're going to do its tail. So join this dot together and then join to the fish, and you now have the fish shape to cut out. So let's do that. Okay, so you've now got your fish shape. If you've done it in pencil, you could rub it out. If not, just turn it over. And you are going to write on it a reminder that with God, all things are possible. And this is taken from Matthew chapter 19 verse 26. Now if you've got a bit more time, you can perhaps decorate your fish. Here's one I made earlier. It's got a little eye, it's got some scales. Now this is a fish made out of paper. You could also make your fish out of tissue, or you could make your fish out of tissue paper. Okay, right, that's your fishes done. Let's now do our loaves. So I've got this cardboard box, and I'm going to cut one edge to open it up. Okay, and again I'm going to use my cup, and I'm going to, on one side, draw 5 loaves. Now it doesn't matter if these overlap, because you're not going to be cutting out the circles anyway. This is just so that you've got 5 loaves. Okay, and now you're going to cut your cardboard. It doesn't matter how neat it is. Pull a few bits off. Okay, right, I've got my 5 loaves here. You might want to make them into a little bit more like bread. Not so good at drawing loaves. Okay, right, now get rid of everything you haven't used. Okay, and now we're going to play the game. We're going to see how far we can make our fish go, just like Jesus did feeding the 5,000, but ours just a bit of a game. Okay, let the game begin. Flap your fish. Oh, these ones like to go, so maybe tissue paper is the right kind of material. Tissue works quite well as well. Okay, this one needs a little bit more work. Maybe let's bend him up a little bit to make him fly. Okay, hopefully you've had a bit of fun with your loaves and your fishes, and remember, with God all things are possible.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Did you get your bread to move the fish, and how far did they travel? Many questions Jake actually asked us during that. How much food would it take to feed 5,000? And not only feed them, but amazing they were all fed and all were satisfied. And Jesus, as Jake pointed out, not only provided the food, but pointed us to himself as the bread of life. We're now going to sing a song about Jesus being the King. Matthew speaks a lot about Jesus as King. So we're going to sing this song that we've done many, many times. And reminds us of the things that he did and the importance of actually following him. Jesus is the King. He's the ruler over everything. So let's enjoy the song with the actions from Ben and Eloise. So it's been good again to be able to share with you either in your home or in the church. Over these past months has been working our way through the life of Jesus in the eyes of Matthew. Seeing the things that he did, seeing the things that he said, the people he met and the response of those people. And soon, hopefully, we'll be back in church full time. We'll be able to see you face to face. So thanks again for listening and for taking part. And as I said, we'll see you again. And I will leave you with this verse that Jesus spoke in John's Gospel that Jake made reference to. Jesus says, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty." So we'll see you again next time and have a great week. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Welcome back to 1 Minute Wonders. We're up to number 6 today. The first 5 were a set of instructions of things we should do. The next 5 are a set of instructions of things we shouldn't do, and they all have in common 2 words: do not. So today's is quite an easy one. It is do not kill. But what's the symbol? Well, 5 hands and another thumb, making 6 for the 6th commandment. We're going to wrap this hand around here, making like an instrument that can stab somebody, and we're going to say, do not kill. Notice we're shaking our hands at the same time as doing it. But it's not just about killing, it's about even thinking about killing. We should not even think about doing any harm to anybody at any time. So do not kill, but don't think about killing or doing any harm to anybody.